What's up, guys? Welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue. We're going to be talking about type 6 today and the connection to authority. Trusting authorities, not trusting authorities, sometimes a little bit unsure that you want to be perceived yourself as an authority, all about authority. Okay, so welcome to my channel, and in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com, where you can book coaching appointments, Enneagram coaching if you're feeling stuck in life, or you just want somebody to talk to, vent to, or help you get on a better path in life. I would love for you to reach out to me, whether it's for yourself or for your relationships. I do relationship coaching as well. And on my website is information about the classes I offer and Enneagram coaching, the certificate programs I offer. And you can book me to come speak to your team, whether that's your nonprofit team, your corporation, your church staff, whatever I can do to help build your team so that they're more compassionate with each other and more present to life and more balanced in life. Okay, so let's get started today as we look at type 6 and their relationship, or your relationship, with authority. I think about John Mellencamp's song, the John Cougar Mellencamp, I fight authority, but authority always wins. All right, so there is a connection here, or a dynamic that might exist between type 6s and their love-hate relationship with authority. And let's see what our author says today. We're looking at Beatrice Chestnut's book, The Enneagram Guide to Waking Up. This is one of the key patterns she mentions about type 6s and their problems with authority. She says, if you're a type 6, then you may realize that you have more problems with authority than the average person. I think there are probably some other types that would challenge authority, but why is this brought up about you in particular, about 6s in particular, that frustration or that tendency to want an authority figure that you can trust, but sometimes being unsettled and unsure that you have an authority figure you can trust? Notice if you have a sensitive antenna, if you have radar that picks up on power dynamics in relationships or corporations or teams. Can you sense where the authority is, and do you sense whether or not they're using their authority in a positive way, or are they abusing their authority? Do you tune into that? Do you tune in naturally to those types of scenarios? Can you pick up like where the authority center is, and are they using their authority in a positive way to benefit the lives of others, or are they misusing their authority and lording their power over others? Do you feel a need to speak up against this authority, to challenge this authority? Otherwise, you might see yourself as a mild-mannered person. But when you see this abuse of authority, when you see this manager who's lording his power around, who's not being careful, who's not being consistent, who's not being attentive to the needs of others, do you have a tendency, do you notice a tendency to speak up in order to protect the team? It's a little bit like, I want this authority figure that I can trust. I would love to have a manager that I could believe in. I would love to have a CEO or a president of a company or of the nation or a pastor that I could trust. But do you find yourself having a hard time vacillating in that respect and in that trust for that authority? When it actually comes down to it, is it hard for you to follow authority? As much as you might see yourself as, I would make a great loyal follower, but when it actually is played out, are you loyal? You know, there's a reason why the 6 is sometimes called the loyal / skeptic. Because there are times when you are intensely loyal, and then there are times when you are literally creating the mutiny. You are instigating the coalition against the authority figure. And it could make the rest of us scratch our head like, how are you the loyalist? You're literally going from office to office asking people, what was up with our manager today? What was he trying to say? I'm not crazy, right? I mean, you heard what he said. That's ridiculous. Why would he call Mary out like that? That's ridiculous. This needs to be dealt with. We need to form a coalition, and we need to go to the supervisor, and we need to address this. We need to have a, what is that called? An intervention. Do you notice this tendency within yourself to like have a love-hate relationship with authority, a respect and a question at the same time? give and take relationship with authority? Do you want to stand up to protect the underdog? Do you find like a natural impulse to question authority? Again, none of this is bad necessarily. There are abuses of power, and we do need people like you to question those authority figures and make sure that people aren't just going to lead us over a cliff. And so it's not bad to be wired this way. It could be a very good thing. It could be very protective for everybody. A lot of people will just let it happen. A lot of people might just let, the corruption continue. But your tendency is not to do that. Your tendency is to address it. It's to call it out. It's to question those in power or those who have positions of power. And again, that could be a very good thing if it is necessary. Are you good at deciding whether or not it is necessary or not? Because what if you have a great leader who's just a person with clay feet, a normal person who isn't perfect, who at times may shade things better than they really are in order to try to establish camaraderie or establish team spirit or to try to create enthusiasm? Do you have somebody that is a good person that might not be perfect? Are you able to tell the difference between a good leader who isn't perfect and somebody who is corrupt and is lording their authority over their team, abusing their power, and looking at the employees as tools to be used to further my agenda? Are you good at knowing the difference between those two scenarios? Because what you may find happen is you may find yourself becoming a burr in the saddle of a good leader. You may find yourself becoming like a rock in the shoe, a pebble in the shoe of somebody who's actually trying to do something great, but they're not perfect. And knowing the difference is what this is all about. I mean, this is what maturity is. This is what balance is for you to realize I have a tendency to question authority. I have a tendency to put people under a spotlight, to put people under a headlamp, and find out what's really going on. I have a tendency to speak up and argue for the team, to speak up and argue for the underdog. I have a tendency to push back against people who are abusing authority or abusing their power. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, is that needed right now? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. And it might be good to have a couple people around you that you can trust, that have proven themselves to you as loyal teammates that you could talk to before you find yourself going against the lion. Because you might lose that battle and you might destroy the very thing that you're hoping to create. Teamwork, unity, cohesiveness. You may end up the person that you would be afraid of. Creating, instigating conflict, instigating confusion, instigating challenges against the very thing that you would say you want. A team that you could belong to. Okay, very interesting to think about. So I always think of this illustration, of sitting at your desk and concerned and worried that something could go wrong, that maybe we're going to lose a couple of jobs here at this company. The economy's taking a downturn, there's a lot of inflation, and so, every company is downsizing, and so your radar is up, and then, three ladies, let's say they come in from lunch, and maybe the assistant manager is with them. They come in from lunch laughing, giggling, they walk past your desk, and they say hello as they walk past you. A rather innocent, harmless interaction. But because you are a 6, the light bulb comes on. Like, what was that about? I've never seen those three go to lunch before, and I've never seen the assistant manager, go with those two ladies. What's going on here? What do they know I don't know? What are they up to? Let's suppose it literally is harmless. They just went out to dinner, or maybe they celebrated somebody's birthday. And I don't think you're going to feel left out like I'm not a person of value, like a 2 might feel left out or a 4 might feel left out. I think it's more like, what are they up to? What's going on here? Why are those 3 becoming chummy all of a sudden? What do they know that I don't know? And then they go off to their separate desks and watch your tendency. Like, I need to go to the one I'm the closest to, Martha, I need to go sit down with her desk and say, hey, what was that lunch about? I noticed you guys coming in today from lunch. What's going on? Why did Pam take you out to lunch? Why did the assistant manager, why was she with you guys? And your line of questioning is designed to try to figure out what's at the bottom of this. Is there something that I need to be prepared for? Is there something that is catastrophic that's coming? I don't want to be caught off guard. And so your intentions may be good, trying to protect yourself or your team, but how is this way of interacting going to be perceived by Martha, by Pam, by the rest of these individuals? They're probably going to get done talking to you and think, what's going on? Like, she's giving me the 5th degree. She's questioning our lunch together. Something's not right here. And you could eventually bring about the very thing that you're afraid of. In other words, your prophecy comes true. There is a little coalition forming against you, but it wasn't generated for no reason. It might be generated by your own actions, your own questioning, your own pursuing of answers might provoke this group of people to turn against you, the very thing you don't want. I just want you to see how sometimes something good can turn bad. And the very thing that you're hoping to protect, you could actually instigate and bring about against yourself. So what would it take for you to decide that you have a leader that is okay to follow? Well, I guess part of it is like, do you really want to just follow? Why is it just follow? Why can't it be follow but with eyes open, and move with the team, move beside the leader? I guess just blindly following would be nice, if you could find that person that was 100% perfect to blindly follow, but do you really need to blindly follow anybody? Not really. I mean, you're always checking and verifying, right? And keeping an open mind and keeping open eyes. But at what point can you relax enough to let your guard down? And that probably feels gross and disgusting just saying that, let your guard down. But at what point do you know you can relax, let your guard down, and not worry about things? Okay, let's see what else she says. She says, you fear distrusting an authority figure too much will make you unsafe. Right, because it's kind of like they'll lead us over a cliff. If we don't stay vigilant, if we don't stay aware, this person, as good as they might be or as good as they might seem, they've got everybody fooled. They could just lead us to a path of destruction. And so we need to stay vigilant. Again, not a bad thing. It's just it might bring about a result different than what you're hoping it'll bring about. Because most leaders don't like somebody in the back of the room constantly, I got another question, I got another question, I got another question. What about this? What about that? What about this? I mean, you remember that kid in school, right? That kept everybody after the bell because they got one more question about the assignment. And then everybody's groaning and the kid turns around and says, somebody's got to ask a question, I'm sorry. And the whole class is like, oh my goodness, make it stop, make it stop. And that thing you want so bad, cohesive team, community, belonging, just realize that this type of behavior, although it's natural for you, might make those goals more difficult to achieve in your life. Okay, was there anything else I wanted to say about this? Oh yes, she says you may likely avoid positions of leadership yourself. Notice that. Do you have an unsettled feeling about becoming a leader yourself? Do you see yourself as a leader? Do you hesitate? you know, it's kind of the idea is like, well, they shoot the guy on the horse first. You know, the guy up on the horse, that's the one that the snipers are going to hit first. I don't want to be that guy. And so this fear of being called out, or this fear of being questioned, or this fear of having adversaries could keep you from becoming the leader that maybe you could be. This fear of not being perfect at being a leader, or having forces against you, or becoming the target in the office could keep you from aspiring to a position that maybe you could do very well. So your fear of being of what leaders could become, or how leaders might be treated, could keep you from moving forward and becoming the leader that you otherwise could possibly be. And I don't want to see that happen, because maybe you would make a great leader. You probably would. If you could wrap up this anxiety a little bit, this not being able to decide, this indecision sometimes could get the best of you. And like, there's this old quote that I used to have on my desk years ago, and it's because I'm a 7-wing 6. It's this old quote I used to have that says, know when you know enough to make a decision. That's such a helpful thought. Know when you know enough to make a decision. I'm an ENFP, and Ps have a hard time sometimes feeling like I have enough information. I want to keep my options open as a 7, and sometimes, you know, that can lead to an indecisive leader. And the reality is you hate an indecisive leader. You don't want an indecisive leader. You want somebody that can plan out and mark out the agenda, the road forward, and be very clear about it. You respect that and you want to follow that. Could you do that? Can you become that person? Or do you get stuck in your own anxiety and stuck in your own indecision, not wanting to make a mistake, not wanting to mess up, and so therefore not feeling comfortable actually stepping up to the plate or taking action? And this could hinder your ability to move forward as the leader that maybe you could be otherwise. And I don't want to see that happen. So let's become more aware of these compulsions within ourselves, and let's know better when to push back on these compulsions and say to ourselves, you know, oh, I'm just a 6. Feeling 6 stuff, and I don't want it to keep me from being able to move forward and to function and do all that is in front of me, all that God wants me to do with my life. All right, guys, I hope it's helpful. I hope it is challenging and comforting at the same time. And as always, be present to life, and I'll see you next time.